Hey folks, welcome back. This is Chris in Central Pennsylvania. And apologies, this isn't live, but you've heard about my internet problems here. It's the drop outside. My provider keeps trying to tell me it's my house, it's my equipment, it's my computer, it's my LAN card. It's none of that. I had a technician here for about 4 hours yesterday. He went through the house, confirmed everything, gave me a new router. It's not that. The problem is outside. They're supposed to send a technician to fix the drop that's in the public location outside. I think it's probably a damaged cable or something like that. And it's been going on for years, and it builds up after a period of time. Anyway, so it's a problem. Hopefully they'll be there. But welcome back to the program. Byron Shepard with me today. We're talking about the Bondi Beach situation and the globalization, the Intifada. We've seen this unfold all over the world over the past several years. Chris Kindlemarks being attacked in Berlin and throughout Germany. We've seen terrorist attacks in nightclubs in Paris, shootings, stabbings in Brussels, in London. We've seen it here in the United States and all over the world. And now we see it in Sydney, Australia. And this time it's an outcome of the global effort to demonize Jews around the world, the anti-Semitic behavior that's tolerated and actually, in my view, encouraged by governments like Canberra, that's actually, went out of their way to promote the Free Palestine and Palestine. Of course, Palestine, the such existence of the state of Palestine is led by a terrorist organization, Hamas. Byron, welcome to the program. Let's get into it. This is pretty frightening what's been happening, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, it's, a lot of people have asked me the question as to what I think of it. And I got to say to you, Chris, if I take a bowl and I add water, flour, and yeast, what do I get?
I think you get bread.
Get bread. Well done. You're the first person to actually answer that properly. You get bread, right? And it's like a lot of people, if I put all of that in a bowl and I get bread, lots of people are like, oh my God, I didn't know that would give me bread. It's been obvious. Like this has been on the cards for some time. The situation in Australia was on the cards, and it had been seen as being on the cards since October 7th. October 7th massacres happened in 2023. One day afterwards, the bodies weren't even cold yet, and there was large gatherings inside Australia demonstrating "Gas the Jews." Now, you can't say that had to do with Israel's retaliation or the war in Gaza versus Israel, because it hadn't even happened. The bodies were still cooling in Israel. The IDF was still trying to find the Hamas terrorists inside Israel. Don't forget that there was Hamas cells that were continuing to kill people for up to a week after October 7th. They hadn't even found everybody yet. So the reality was you had one day afterwards, you had mass gatherings there going "Gas the Jews." We later then saw the demonstrations occur in Australia, where up to 250,000 people protested through Sydney, singing "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," in pro-Palestinian marches. Albanese, the PM, eventually had a little bit of a wobble and decided he had such deep anti-Israeli feelings or sentiments in Australia that he would declare a Palestinian state. Many individuals asked him, Palestinian state of what? Where's the borders? What's the capital? Who will run it? What are the borders? He couldn't answer these questions, so he wanted to declare a Palestinian state based on what? There wasn't even conditions. It wasn't even like, well, if you don't stop the plight of the Gazans, then we'll do this. It was an unconditional declaration based on what he determined as being an unfair injustice. Now, the reality is it had very little to do with justice, and it had everything to do with voter appeasement because of the population base that he had imported. So I say again, when you add water, flour, and yeast, why is anybody surprised that you get bread? In this instance, when you add a shed load of foreign immigrants from Islamic states that typically have zero respect for the Jewish identity, many of which subscribe to the Muslim Brotherhood and the Charter of the Muslim Brotherhood, which says in the actual Muslim Brotherhood's charter, first we will come for the Saturday people, then we will come for the Sunday people. That's in their manifesto, the Saturday people being the Jews, the Sunday people being the Christians, which is why even on my own videos I said, Christians, you're next. But the reality is, how could anybody assume that this would not be the inevitable outcome when you have mass migration, and on top of that, You disarm your population so that they're no longer able to defend themselves from the very people who you import. Now, the Australian government's response is don't worry, they will assimilate. They won't become a problem, they will assimilate. But this has not been shown to be the case in any country globally. And right now, globally, there's only one world leader that actually understands that, and that's Trump. Trump understands we are not getting assimilation when these people come in. In fact, what we are getting is a large amount of individuals coming into the Western nations with foreign ideas and beliefs. They are not assimilating and they are bringing their vendettas to our shores. So again, it was inevitable that this would occur in Australia. It was also inevitable that this would occur at Yom Kippur, at Hanukkah, because there had just been a stabbings in Manchester in Yom Kippur. Every High Holy Day, every of the main Jewish High Holy Days, there is an incident. The only thing that we didn't know is that this time around, the incident wouldn't be in Manchester, England. It would now be in Australia. And the reality is, this is what even the Chief Rabbi of South Africa is now warning about. And that is, this is what globalized the Intifada looks like. It means these incidents will continue to occur in random Western states around the world because that's what globalizing the Intifada means.
That's exactly right. I agree with 100%. And it's already happened to Christians. I mean, this has been going on. If we look at the past 125 years, at the beginning of the 20th century, Christians began departing from Syria and from Lebanon in particular, coming to the United States. That's how we got our large Arab population initially coming from those places, overwhelmingly Christian professionals. But we can see this particularly after the Second World War, and especially since 9/11, the attacks on Christians, the attacks on the Yazidi, and also Jews. And you look at places historically had large Jewish and Christian populations like Iraq and Syria and Morocco, a large Jewish population. Tunisia had a significant Jewish population. Algeria, they're all gone. Virtually none of these people left, Jews in particular, but Christians have also left these places. When I lived in Tunisia, the Catholic church that was near the Carrefour that was built was being used as a police station. This is an exodus that's been happening for over a century, but it's picked up pace now, and it's a global situation. I mean, it's really sad to see. But back to your point, before I get it back to you, about these letting people in, it's imminently predictable, and we've been predicting it for years. But of course, we've been called Islamophobes. I'm not afraid of Islam. I'm just stating the facts here. I'm not talking about everyone that's in the faith, but when you allow people in your country that are diametrically opposed to your mores, your norms, your values, your faith, your language, this is what you get.
However, am very happy to say I am afraid of Islam, but I don't think that the fear is unwarranted. I think the fear is completely rational. Many of these individuals come through from Islamic states where their belief is that if you are not a Muslim, you are subhuman. You are not fit to have the same rights as a Muslim. That is the reality. They come from a very extreme version of Islam. I say a very extreme version. You could also say the argument of a very dedicated or a very pure version of Islam. And they believe that they are imbibing the caliphate, the idea of the Muslim global order, as they were told to do in the Quran. So they feel that they are living faithfully to what their book tells them to do. Now, the reality, what that means in reality is that I myself, you, Chris, we would be second-class citizens unless we converted. And most people don't understand what that means. But many of these Muslim imams will tell us very happily what that means. It means that they can take possession of your house whenever they want to. They can spit on you in the street. They can rape your wife and you can't say a thing. They can embarrass you and make you wear odd shoes and odd socks and make you wear some funny stuff to make you seem like a clown. They can charge you additional taxes. I'm not saying this. It's what the imams themselves are telling me that they will do to the non-believer when they take over our states. That's their words, not mine. And unfortunately, I am not stupid enough not to believe a person who they are when they tell me who they are. If they say, this is who I am, I'm obligated to believe them for what they tell me. I'm not stupid enough to go, no, you don't really mean what you're telling me. Like, no, I believe them when they tell me they intend to do this. And so I don't think that a fear of Islam in that respect is unreasonable. I also don't think it could be classed as a phobia, an irrational fear of something. This is not irrational, it's completely rational. But this is what the Saudi prince of Saudi Arabia, an Arab Muslim country, has been warning the West about for the last 10 years. He keeps saying, you people believe you understand our religion better than we do. We're telling you this is what's going to happen in your state. Stop importing our most extreme people. And you don't believe us. You still believe that somehow, for us telling you to be worried about this, that we're the extremist and we're the racist. This is their words, not my words. I didn't invent this. It's what they're telling me. So again, when they tell me who they are, I'm obligated to believe them. So to your comment, no, it's not that I have Islamophobia, because that would make it seem like it's unreasonable. It's not unreasonable. It's perfectly reasonable to be afraid of what many of these individuals have planned for our states.
Well, you spelled out very well there, and my point exactly is I have no irrational fear of that, and I know what I'm dealing with. But we've seen this movie before, Byron. Not in the Levant or in North Africa, in the Middle East, but specifically we've seen it in Europe. We've seen this play out. The Ottomans invaded; they conquered what became Bosnia-Herzegovina. And when the Serbs lost the battle in the Kosovo Plogi, about 700, 800 years ago, they lost that battle and the cream of their nobility is wiped out. The Ottomans conquered and settled. And if you wanted to own property, you had to convert to Islam. If you wanted to avoid
jizya.
Yeah, if you wanted to avoid taxation, you had to convert to Islam. You had to adhere to the rules, and your religion was oppressed, but you were allowed to live basically second class or lower citizens. This went on for centuries. And a lot of people who didn't know about Bosnia, went to Bosnia, were just stunned to see these white folks with blue eyes who were Muslims. Well, that's because their ancestors nominally converted to Islam so they could survive in that environment. We've seen this movie before, and we've seen what's happening as Yugoslavia fell apart, and in Bosnia in particular, because of this Balkanization. And that's the right term here. These people are creating communities where they don't assimilate. They're balkanizing our societies. Look at East London. In London, it's not even English anymore. Leicester, Luton, Manchester, Sheffield, it's all gone. English culture, British culture is gone. And look at who is running the government in South Africa. Their immigration people are people from South Asia. I'm not trying to discriminate against people of South Asia, but I mean, where are the actual English, Scots, Irish, and Welsh in this government? You just don't see them.
Right. And this becomes a problem because let's actually bring this closer to home. Let's look at Africa. Do you know how Ghana, true story, do you know how Ghana became Muslim?
Well, Ghana has a lot of Muslims, but it's not a Muslim country per se. It's about
but do you know how
60.
do you know how it got there?
Well, I would assume madrasa. I mean, when it first arrived?
Why are there so many Muslims in Ghana? Any
Well,
ideas?
I can tell you why it's happened the last 30 years, because there's been money to fund all these madrasas and all these mosques.
Just historically, why were there
The
so
slave
many
trade,
Muslims?
the slave trade.
Slave trade. And if you didn't want to be sold into slavery, you had to convert. Done. You can't sell a Muslim into slavery, but you can sell a non-Muslim into slavery according to the Islam. So why did so many of them convert? Because they didn't want to get sold into slaves. Simple, right? That's a fact. So does that make them Islamophobic if I said, well, I don't want to be sold into a slave trade, and I also don't want to be made to convert to Islam because it's not my religion. I don't believe in it. So the fact that I have that viewpoint, does that make me Islamophobic?
Not at all. It makes you rational.
That's why I say you cannot call it a phobia. It is perfectly rational to have a fear of what they tell me they intend to do to me. Right? Now, coming back to Australia, let's actually look at some of the problems that have occurred. The shooting occurred and the police were very slow to respond. 20 minutes to respond. However, there are certain things. I know you have a different take on this to me. I'm going to tell you my take. I know you probably have a different take. Number one, Australia is not a high gun crime area. Mass shootings are not the norm. And so the reality is they don't know how to deal with it. The second thing is Australia is not a country that's used to dealing with firearms. And you saw this in the fact that two individuals first attempted to take the firearms out of those two individuals' hands when they got out the car. Both were gunned down. Nobody's really talking about the two individuals that tried to stop it when they just got out the car before the shooting had even started. They were both gunned down for attempting to do that. Because again, Australia is not a high gun usage area. And they didn't really stop to think to themselves, I might get shot. Because in their mind, they still thought liberal sensibilities apply. We live in the liberal West. The rules of don't shoot me. We all universally accept that. There's no way these guys would actually shoot me. I mean, it wouldn't happen. Well, unfortunately, you import people from third worlds that don't share your same beliefs, probably not going to have the same sensibilities. So they got shot. The reality was then an individual went out there, a Muslim individual, I might add, who was a hero who took the firearm off him. Why did that hero not shoot the guy on the ground and then shoot the guy on the bridge?
That's exactly my point right there. I would have capped that guy. You had legal justification. You were stopping this. I mean,
but his father was right there. Why didn't he shoot the father? He could have turned the firearm and shot the dad and the shooting would have been over. He would have been a mass hero. Why? Because it's not a high gun usage environment and they don't know what they're doing. They're like, so what did he do? He put the firearm on the floor, which ended up meaning that the father had time to shoot him 2 or 3 times. So he ended up getting shot because of it, right? So the reality is what we saw in Australia, the police didn't get there in time. But why would they? It's not a high gun crime area. The police didn't know what they were doing. No doubt, like London, you have to have special units that are trained in firearms. That unit's probably busy. I doubt it's sitting around waiting all day. Australia is a big place. It's going to take them a long time to get from one zone to the next with the firearms unit. I mean, that seems weird to anybody else, like in America, where every cop has a gun and is probably trained to use it. But in these areas where they don't, where the biggest threat they've got is like a notepad. Oh, this notepad. Then you need to get special trained people. Well, those trained people aren't readily available and they're going to take time to get there. So the reality is what this showed you was that actually Australia's anti-gun position caused these massacres. Had there been another member of the public who was either 1, trained in a firearm, 2, had a firearm, or 3, was at least prepared to deal with a terrorist type attack, this may have been mitigated. And I say may because you can't assume you're just going to have a Rambo walking through there like shooting everybody. I said it may have mitigated it. But the reality was those guys had full impunity to walk around casually. And I've seen the footage. I've displayed the footage. They walked around casually shooting everybody they could think of. They had ample time to reload, to cycle their rounds. They could do what they wanted. And the reality is everyone in Australia, everyone was powerless to do anything until the police arrived. The police took 20 minutes plus to arrive. The casualties were mounting up by the second. Who's at fault? Australia's corrupt gun laws. That's who's at fault. Now, the problem is, and I think we need to talk about this. I don't mean to just be the only one talking here, so sorry, Chris. But the problem is, what was Australia's response? Tighten gun laws.
Gun laws, yep.
Tighten gun laws, the very thing
that caused this.
Babylon B did a skit. They said in their skit, to stop this happening again, ban Hanukkah. That was the Babylon B's skit. It was meant to be a joke. It's meant to be when you go and you find the wrong thing and you try to go, I can control that, do that. It's meant to be a joke. But the reality was, no sooner had the massacres stopped, Sadiq Khan tried to ban Hanukkah in London. So Babylon B's skit became reality in London. Now, let's actually talk about what they should do in order to stop this from occurring. What did Trump do with all the weirdo countries that have a load of extremists that want to come to America and kill everybody? What did he do?
He banned them. He banned them from coming to America.
There you go. There's the answer. So why are they not having that conversation?
because they're a bunch of leftist liberal lunatics who think that the kumbaya works. Listen, let me go back to the point there. I don't think there's any space at all between my view and your view. What I said in my analysis, I approached it from a security standpoint. The only video I watched was the 10.5 minute video that was filmed from an oblique angle on the side of the bridge where you could see. And my analysis of that, so you've seen all this other footage. I haven't seen it. So my analysis of that.
You saw my video, so you saw
yeah.
quite a bit of it, yeah.
Okay, so I did see that afterwards, but I mean, it's before I made my video. My video I made not about the slayings, not about what's happening, but about the inept Keystone Cop response. These cops cowered behind vehicles. There was a person who was able to maneuver himself into a spot where, with his phone, he could film the events at an angle that if somebody had a firearm, they could have taken them out. The cops that did show up with firearms are shooting at them at a concrete bridge instead of maneuvering. You shoot, you move, you communicate. You cover, you move. You return fire, suppress the fire, you move. None of that happened. The female cops that showed up, total chaos, total clusterfuck on that bridge, no control of that scene whatsoever. If there's any evidence that need to be gathered, the complete site is contaminated. People coming in kicking the assailants. Little female cops can't stop anybody. My point with this is that where the hell is special weapons and tactics? They don't have a SWAT team in a city the size of Sydney. That's insane. And I don't care that they don't have a gun culture. You have to be prepared for everything. You have to be prepared. They're not prepared. And to hear that Gavin Newsom, New South Wales governor, tell us that he was proud of the police, that guy should resign today. And Albany should go with him. This was beyond inept. And this is what you get. This is unacceptable. If this had happened in Tel Aviv or in Dallas, that shooting would have stopped within a minute because somebody would have capped those guys.
You know, as you, I don't think you've ever been to Tel Aviv. I have. In fact, I've recently been there myself.
I have. I used to live in Israel.
Ah, great. Then you know. So how many IDF officers are required, even off duty, to still carry their M16s?
Well, all IDF soldiers are required to carry it. If they go to the theater off duty, it doesn't matter. On vacation, they have to have their weapon with them.
Correct. So they can't leave them at home. So IDF are constantly. It's not unusual to see a guy sitting at a bar having a drink with his girlfriend with an M16 on his back.
Yep.
Right? That's just how it was. But inevitably, once you get over the shock of like, oh, wow, check this out, you feel a shitload more comfortable because you know the minute something happens, there is an individual who can respond far faster than anybody else can. The legacy, the individuals, the time to respond for an IDF officer is minutes, as opposed to somewhere like in Australia where the majority of people, one, don't have any firearms usage. They don't have any experience with firearms. And as a result, the time of reaction is so slow that the deaths can amount. In Israel, it's like that. And we see it because there's terrorist attacks all the time. IDF officer pulls a gun, they put him down. Okay, cool. But even in those few seconds that it takes the IDF to respond, 3-4 people die.
Yeah.
Right? The numbers will escalate to these type of levels if you don't have a quick reaction. So you cannot say, well, the answer here in Australia, you can't even own a hunting knife. You can't. It's illegal.
Sounds
so you
like
couldn't
London.
even say that a guy could run up to him and stab it. Like they were sitting ducks. Now, if you're not prepared to have the real conversation or ban the very individuals that are a threat to your life, if you're not prepared to have that conversation, you need to loosen gun laws. It's reality.
Well, in either case, but you're absolutely right. I think you need to loosen gun laws anyway. This is absolutely ridiculous. And that's what I've been talking about this for the past several years, ever since when the COVID scam was happening and 500,000 people would march in Melbourne. Scott Morrison and his other clowns in government there, they would actually, send the police out. They would beat the protesters. And I have the video of it. We covered it live, beat them in the street, arrest them for marching, exercising their legal rights. They had plenty of police presence for that. But I could get so angry about this whole thing, about the loss of life. It's again, anybody that has any common sense and any experience in law enforcement or military operations could have ended this within minutes because these guys, anyway, it's just, the fact that this guy recorded this video for 10.5 minutes as people were dying and no one came up, and in the end, the cops were so out of control there. Byron, did you see that? I'm sure you saw this where they ran past the weapons on the ground. They didn't secure the weapons, and there's civilians running around picking up rifles
because they have no experience at firearms. This is my point.
Yeah, your point's valid.
They are completely out of their depth. They don't know what to do. This was exactly what will happen in the UK. I have been saying for years, especially in relation to the UK, when you import people from a third world country where home invasions are a sport and they are used to getting in and out when there's high-rise walls, electric fences, a guard dog, an alarm with armed response, and the guy sitting in the house has got a firearm. When those individuals can still get in and out of those houses and you invite them to the UK, where I can walk straight up to your front door, there's no fencing, no one's got a firearm. People will just open their door to any old person. It's like having candy it's like trying to take candy from a baby.
You're inviting it.
It's just so easy.
You're inviting it is what you're doing, especially when you leave your borders open. Yep.
100%.
And I've been warning about this in Australia and New Zealand for the past 6 years. I've been saying this.
You're inviting people there who come from war zones, who come to your country, who have got firearms experience, tactical experience, who has experience at mass extermination, who doesn't view life in the same way that you do. And all you do is you go, well, they'll assimilate, be fine. The minute they can get their hands on firearms, you've got a problem. But it's important to understand something, Chris. This is one of hundreds of anti-Semitic attacks that have occurred in the last 2 years alone. It's the only one that's involved firearms. And so everybody's talking about, well, it was the firearms, it's the firearms, the firearms. All the attacks before that were with knives, Molotov cocktails, cars driven into things. You can't ban everything in life, Chris. It's not possible.
That's my point. Sadiq Khan banned kitchen knives. You can't carry pocket knives. That's insane. You can't do that.
You can't carry a spoon underneath the Dangerous Weapons Act in the UK.
Yeah,
it's a true story. If you're caught with a spoon and they say, what's that? And you go, it's a self-defense spoon, they can arrest you, and they will arrest you because you've just shown intention to use that spoon to harm another. And as John Wick taught us, you can kill a man with a pencil. So are we going to ban pencils?
I actually knew that before John Wick. Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like,
I know. It's look. It's the absurdity of this thing, and that's when they start talking about guns. I'm like, and this is before the Chris Kindle mark and the London Bridge where they drove over people. I said, look, cars are weapons. I mean, I treat my car as a deadly weapon. In other words, I'm very careful because I could kill someone just by running over them. And I said, that's what they'll do. When you take away the guns and then Sadiq Khan takes away the knives, what are they going to use next? Cars. And that's what they did. And they'll use whatever they can. We saw the Bagran Rashis try to poison people with food poisoning in Oregon back in the 1980s. The bottom line here is that you can't ban, as you said, you can't ban everyday items of life. And guns are not the problem. It's ideology that's the problem. These people are the problem that behave in this fashion. And this
You and me probably have one of the most deadliest weapons in your house right now.
What, our mind?
No. Probably one of the most deadliest weapons. And I know that most people in the UK have one, and in Australia have one, anywhere in the world. We probably all have one of the most deadliest weapons in the world right now in your home.
Which is?
A hammer.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've got several.
Right? Are we going to stop banning hammers?
Well, that's exactly the point here.
Because then let's go to screwdrivers. Screwdrivers are pretty dangerous.
Yeah,
what about a wrench? Pretty dangerous.
Yeah.
Can't ban everything.
You can't ban everything. And you shouldn't be. The problem is you've got to excise the cancer from your system. You've got to cut it out completely. And that's what's going on here. It's not being done. No, Trump is on the right approach and he's being attacked left and right for it. And his base is supposedly fracturing. I don't buy that story of fracturing. But, this is a situation that the West is allowed to happen. And I saw this, Byron, unfold in the early 1980s when I was a university student. When I went to Ohio University, I'm like, what are all these Palestinians? What are these Arabs doing at my school? Why are they all here? Why are all these Chinese here? In early 1980s, the Chinese sent their students to America to learn English. Then in the 90s, they sent to learn engineering and science. And now they're eating our lunch in so many ways. Because their intellectual theft, their property theft, their espionage. But this situation in Australia, it was beyond insane. And I don't mean to blame the organizers of the events there at the Hanukkah events, but I mean, I'm not aware of what security measures those people took, if there's any security, because we know that a lot of gatherings, Jews around the world, oftentimes, particularly in France, have their own security. In fact, when I was there for the Rugby World Cup, I was harassed by a security guy who was watching the synagogue across the street from me. It was where I was staying in Bordeaux. there's a synagogue across the street. And I sat down on a concrete, pillar that was a, barrier so people can't drive into a building. And I didn't realize the synagogue initially. I was just sitting out there, and this guy came over and harassed me. He said, "You can't sit here." I said, "Why? I'm in public. I'm not bothering anybody. It's not private property." He said, "You can't sit there." When I left, I realized that he was security for the synagogue. He was protecting services going there. So Jews around the world have carried firearms and had security at their places. I don't know what happened in Bondi Beach, but I'd like to know more about that because it
Not
seems
allowed
to me
to.
you can't.
Australia, no private security, same as in England. Quite a
Wow.
private security.
So these people were set up to be
State has
victims.
the exclusive remit of violence.
Well,
Exclusive. No private
and
security.
yeah, that's not the case in America, thank God. That's why we have guns, because protect us from the state.
But this is the same problem now in the United Kingdom. Most synagogues in the United Kingdom have closed because they can't have security, because you're not allowed to. So the response is that you understand something as a normal person with a brain cell, and that is, I might be following the rules, but doesn't mean you are. And if I have no ability to self-enforce the rules or to level the playing field, I'm an open target. That's why the guy went there in Manchester, drove over some people, because as you said, your vehicle becomes a primary weapon, then got out there and just started to stam random people. Where was the security? If there was security, they would have caught them. Why is it he was able to get all the way to the door of the synagogue and it was the rabbi who had to lock the door? Because there's no security. You can't have security. You're told, don't worry, the state will provide. The state will look after you. But the state can't. It's impossible. The state cannot be everywhere at all times and all things to all people. And it becomes even more problematic when you've got places like London where the state deliberately says that our resources are constrained and you are not worthy of having ready, available access to our resources. So we will allocate our resources elsewhere. And if you need it, you're just going to have to wait for it. And it will arrive when it arrives, maybe. It might all be dead by then, but it's a price that they're willing for you to pay. So it's a problem. Now it highlights again why in places like South Africa and America, you cannot give up your firearm ever. And it's funny because if you know the old story of the canary and the coal mine, right? Canaries will always tell you when there's a problem. Do you know why they're like that? Because the miners used to take them in there because they don't see people from days and days and days. And it's nice to hear a little bit of, little chirp, 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 chirp. Makes you feel a little bit human. And they figured out that these things could actually tell you shit that they didn't expect. And a lot of it was evolutionary because they've been under there, things have died, things are explosions, all sorts of things. When somebody's exposed to that much problems, they almost get an evolutionary advantage. That's just the way the world works. Well, Jews have that because they've been exposed to all these issues for centuries. So they have an evolutionary advantage. And their evolutionary advantage tells you when you're disarmed and you're unable to protect yourself, they come for you and you have no means of defense. And in that moment of no defense, the massacres that you will experience will be off the charts. Now, we know this to be true because of Ghana, Sudan, Nigeria. It's happening right now across Africa.
Yeah, and we've
Don't
seen this
think that
before.
we've seen it tons.
Babi Yar, Ukraine, the Russian and Belarusian pogroms in the 19th century, and prior to that. Now this goes on and on and on. This is and it's look and again with the anti-Semitism going on, but it's also happened to Jews. Look at Romania with the Ottomans. There's a reason why they demonized Vlad Dracul and called him, tried to turn him into an evil person. This guy was a slayer of the Ottoman Turks. He put them on stakes for a reason to intimidate them because they were murdering Christians. Yeah, this is the world is messed up, and these leftists who seem to think that all will be well are living in a fantasy world. And you're right. You said the most important statement I think we've had in this conversation. They are willing to let you pay the price for their actions. They'll let you die. You can bear the burden. I mean, look at all the cases of Americans raped, murdered, robbed, shot, killed by illegal aliens in this country. And we always get the whataboutism. Well, Americans kill people. Yeah, no, but an American didn't kill this person. If that person had not been in this country, is entered illegally, that young lady would still be alive. And that's the bottom line. And, you know, and these shootings, these societies that want to take guns away have these big events of mass shooting. Look at Norway. Like 70 or 90 people were killed by a lone gunman a few years back. Remember that? In New Zealand, we had the attack against Jews that happened, or no, again, also against a mosque too.
Christians.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
it was mosques. It
It was
was
a mosque.
mosques
It was a
by
mosque, yeah.
an extremist of a Christian extremist who said that he was worried about the Islamic takeover of New Zealand. Fortuitous, I might add.
Yeah, he was right. But the point there being, once again, police not knowing how to respond to things and society not being able to respond. It's just, you know, and let's go back to the guy, this gentleman. Now, I don't know if it's true, but I saw information that he used to be in the police forces or secret police in one of the Arab countries that he came from. But whatever the case is, he definitely had an idea of how to take the guy down. He waited and came from behind, disarmed him. But then this stupid response, you know, the guy wouldn't have survived another minute, and I would have been behind that tree taking cover instead of taking fire from the bridge because he started taking fire from the bridge.
Yeah, I mean, the guy, as I said, the guy had no experience of a firearm. I mean, he was lucky to get the firearm off the guy, and the other guy just couldn't really fight back. But he just stood there kind of confused, and that gave the father, who was on the bridge, ample opportunity to put loads of bullets in him for basically taking a firearm. I mean, the father probably thought what a rational person would. He's going to shoot my son. I still ask the question, why didn't shoot his son? The guy had been going around murdering people. You had no idea if he had other weapons on him. You had no idea. The logical thing would have been to shoot him and then shoot up at the father. It would have certainly limited the entire thing to have returned fire. But again, this is what happens when individuals have zero firearms experience. And it's dangerous. That's why in Israel, everybody has to have compulsory training because you have no idea when your neighbor at the south, the side of you, the north of you, I mean, Israel's surrounded on all fronts. Lebanon in the north wants to kill it. Syria from the side wants to kill it. Gaza wants to kill it from the side. Just below it, there's Egypt that they have kind of like a peace with, kind of maybe not 50-50. Like there are states all around it that want to kill it. You have no idea when these people will be in your areas. So you need to make sure as many of your individuals are trained as possible to respond. Western nations don't have that. They're sitting ducks.
Well, we have it, but apparently it's not as well rehearsed in some places it should be. Look at the Uvalde shooting that took place down there in Texas. That was insane, the response from police. But we've seen other responses from law enforcement that are on point here in the U.S. And also, you know, I bring the point, and you know this because we've just discussed it about Israel, but also U.S. Many places where there is the gun culture in America, people are licensed, responsible gun owners, and they have responded and they've taken people down. It has prevented more carnage. But the problem is that we've had leftists running this country in many years during this century, and they've done incalculable damage to this country, letting unvetted people come in. Trump has now required all 233,000 refugees who came under Biden timeframe to be revetted. Imagine how long it's going to take to do those investigations. 233,000. He's ending temporary protected status for people. See, that's another thing. We've allowed people to come here in temporary protected status to stay forever. Liberians came in 1990 because of the Civil War. The Civil War ended in 2003. They're still here. And every time that it's time to remove their status and tell them to go home to Liberia, which they're never going to do, they get a Congressional Black Congress lobby and they come up and then all this money is spent. Oh, let them stay longer. Let them stay longer. Well, that isn't happening with Trump. He's ended it for Sudan. Or not for Sudan, for Ethiopia. He's ended it for Myanmar. I think a couple other places. It's coming to an end. And this is long overdue. Unfortunately, it may be too late in a lot. We know it's too late in the UK. It's too late in Germany. It may be too late in France. I hope it's not too late in the United States. But obviously, Australia has a major problem because of their culture.
Well, unfortunately, there are parts of the United States, Minnesota, for example, that it probably is too late for. But it's a big country. You're lucky for the size. United Kingdom can't say that. It's a small country. Everything is very close in proximity. So conquering it, actually not that hard. France is a little bit bigger. So you could say that a majority of the problems are in the capitals, but something that all of the countries in the past have understood. Germany would have won the Second World War had they been able to stop the Russians. What stopped the Germans winning the war against the Russians? They didn't go for the capital. They went to Leningrad and Stalingrad because they held names and those names were symbolic. They should have gone for the capital, Moscow. Had they got Moscow, they would have actually beaten Russia. And then notably, they would have been a less ally in the war and they may have been able to focus their resources on the Western Front. Maybe they could have repelled the Americans and the Brits when they invaded. Who knows, right? But the reality is, everybody understands if you want to win a war, go for the capital. Well, France is gone. It's gone. Why? Paris is gone. Paris is so overrun with foreigners. The UK's gone. Why? London's gone. It's so overrun with the capital. Everybody understands if you want to win, take the capital. Well, many capitals in Europe are gone. They've been taken. Brussels, the capital, gone. Germany, the capital, gone. Like, a lot of these countries have fallen and people just never realized that they had, but they have.
All they have, I've been in those places. I transit Brussels quite a bit, and I've seen the change in the past 25
Mhm.
years. It's not the same place it once was. Berlin is not the place it once was. We can thank Angela Merkel for bringing in millions and millions and millions of unvetted people, which have undermined the safety and security of Europeans. And we can also blame these governments. I mean, look at the German government. These rapists molest and rape a teenage German girl, gang rape her, and they're put on trial. They're determined not guilty because they didn't understand the law in Germany. That's what the female judge gave them. A German national repeats that on social media, outraged that these rapists, calling them that because that's what they were.
Got arrested.
She got sent to prison as a convicted felon.
Yeah, because her social media posts hurt the poor rapist's feelings. Yep. Tommy Robinson talks about this a lot, and he's like the most vilified guy in the United Kingdom, right? Because he just dares to say the obvious. But I think we should probably end the stream actually by talking about one last topic, and that is what we can only describe as the white Western liberal woman who thinks that her entire life's work is around not raising families or bringing people into the world. It's about social justice causes. Because we are seeing there was in Melbourne, there was in Sydney, a day after the bodies were taken away, they did a memorial. A woman went to the protest, to the site where they were all mourning the deaths. She went there wearing her pro-Palestine bullshit and wanted to go do a demonstration, a single demonstration, amongst all the mourners who were mourning their people being killed. We are seeing across American nations these little young girls that think that they're so edgy and cool, and they're all sitting there screaming, "Globalize the Intifada." Like, do they know what this means? Some moron in the comments section who's properly bought into the Western liberal rubbish is going to say it means solidarity with Palestine, and it means helping the Palestinians fight for equality and justice. That's not what it means. Read Hamas's charter. Hamas, like I said, if they tell me who they are, I'm obligated to believe who they are. I'm not listening to some dweeb who got a degree or a master's or a doctorate in gender studies. I'm not looking to some moron who wants to sanitize what they says, even when they don't sanitize it themselves. I'm not going to listen to them. I'm going to listen to the primary source. Hamas tells me, the Muslim Brotherhood tells me, globalizing the Intifada is about putting global pressure on states around the world through terrorist activities to adopt and convert to Islam. That's what it means. And it means going into states and applying terrorist type force or activities on states to encourage conversion to Islam. That is what globalize the Intifada means. So once they have that, let's go ask the gender studies moron what those individuals, according to their belief, suggest they do with somebody who celebrates LGBT rights. Because again, I'm obligated to believe them when they tell me who they are. And they tell me, if you go there waving a pride flag, they find the tallest building they can and they throw you off it. It's what they do in Palestine. Palestine, Gaza, right? It's what they do. So I'm obligated to believe that that's what they genuinely believe. But these morons in the West, these liberals who all seem to sing from the Kumbaya playbook of Globalization Intifada, tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm stupid.
Well, the bottom line is you've hit it nail on the head there once again. And that is if they tell you who they are, you should listen. You should believe them. I mean, if they tell you that their stated objective is the elimination of the state of Israel, you should believe them. That's what Hamas says in their charter. If they tell you that they need to pass a law for expropriation without compensation, you should believe them. They're passing a law to take your land without compensation. Believe them when they tell you who they are. And that's the bottom line here, folks, is that this is a frightening prospect that we still have people gaze for Gaza. What an insidiously stupid concept. I like
Chickens for
Byron.
KFC.
Yeah, chickens for KFC is exactly what that is. You know, we know this. I mean, that's why I tell people all the time about the refugee program. You know, people who are gay in Syria are going to be dropped off of buildings to their death when people discover that they're gay, because that's anathema to the culture and the faith that's there. So when they tell you who they are, believe them. All right, folks, that's a little wrap up and a summary about analysis from Byron Shepherd, Morning Shot, and myself about the Bondi Beach. I don't know. I guess we could call it a massacre. That's the right term for it at this
Was
stage.
a massacre.
Yeah, we call it a massacre.
Over
I mean,
15 dead at
yeah.
the time of recording.
Last I saw, about 40 wounded in addition to that, or somewhere around that
40
figure.
wounded.
Yeah. So it is a massacre. And people left completely defenseless, no recourse, nothing they can do except cower and hide. As these guys, as they were obviously well practiced at what they did, I could see them with good discipline, unloading magazines, putting new magazines, and just shooting people pot shots. But that's a summary and analysis of our take on it.
The cycling of the rifle. Spot on.
Oh yeah,
Spot on.
no, you know, and the
They
thing
knew
is,
what they were doing.
the media, of course, show their ignorance. These are automatic weapons. No, they weren't automatic weapons. It's a bolt action rifle. I
Bolt
saw the
action.
guy. Yeah, bolt action, single shot, and look at the carnage they did.
How powered rifles? More like clay pigeon shooting shotguns for birds, basically.
Well, and Byron, that's kind of the approach they had. They acted like they were shooting birds. I mean, they just, taking pot shots at birds, human lives, and particularly insidious. Well, folks, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to leave a comment behind, and go ahead and check out Morning Shot and Byron's personal channel if you like. Go become a subscriber over there. An incredible video he did analyzing this event and talking about it. You need to go check it. I've promoted it, and I hope that you go watch it. And also, feel free to become a subscriber on this channel. Until the next time, for Byron and myself, I want to thank you very much for your patronage. God bless, and Merry Christmas.
Yeah, and I just want to say sorry for talking so much, Chris. I mean, obviously, it's a topic that it's difficult. It's a difficult topic because individuals want to rationalize this, forgive this, and ignore the obvious. And if this event doesn't annoy you, knowing full well you could very much be next, and everybody's telling you to just ignore it, and it's not as big an issue as it is. It is. It's a very much as big an issue as we think it is, if not worse. So it should make you angry. It should make you passionate. And it's time for you to not be silent, because let's be honest, it could be you. Nobody thought Sydney, Australia was going to be the place where you're going to have a mass shooting. Just wasn't in anybody's. That was not in our bingo cards for 2020, 2025. But it happened.
Yeah, I have an expectation of a few other locations. I did expect something to happen in Australia, but I didn't know it was going to be Sydney. I thought maybe Melbourne, particularly given the nature of the population shift in Melbourne. But we saw this in Manchester at a concert. We've seen this all over the place. And how long does this have to go on before people wake up and they stop this nonsense? But I don't know. Some of us are awake. Some of us have been awake for many years. Of course, having worked in counterterrorism, I've dealt with this issue for decades. Maybe that's why I'm more attuned to it than most people on the street. But the sad thing is that people need to wake up. Anyway, folks, thanks for being here. For Byron and for myself, happy Hanukkah. We're in the middle of Hanukkah, well, almost the middle of Hanukkah right now for our Jewish friends. Yeah, well, my count is not very good. It's 12 days or thereabouts. So we're in Hanukkah. Eight, sorry, 8, yeah.
Middle days tomorrow.
Yeah, so I was close. I was close. But happy Hanukkah to our Jewish friends around the world, and Merry Christmas to everyone around the world, even the secular folks who celebrate it, but especially to our Christian brethren. Thank you so much. God bless, and we'll catch you next time.
No worries. Take it easy. Bye.